Anesthesiologists can render a patient fully unconscious, unresponsive to pain, unable to form memories, with no subjective experience of the surgery. Yet when consciousness returns, it is immediately recognizable as exactly the same consciousness that was lost. Consciousness can be switched off and on, yet science cannot explain what it is, where it comes from, or why there is subjective experience at all rather than just information processing without any inner feel to it. Consciousness can be roughly defined as the subjective awareness of one's own mental states, perceptions, and environment. It encompasses both access consciousness, the availability of information for reasoning, reporting, and guiding behavior, and phenomenal consciousness, the qualitative, subjective feel of experience, what philosophers call qualia. The redness of red, the painfulness of pain, the joy of music. These subjective qualities are at the center of the hard problem. Most cognitive science successfully explains access consciousness. Phenomenal consciousness remains deeply mysterious. David Chalmers distinguished between easy problems of consciousness, explaining how the brain integrates information, controls behavior, and discriminates stimuli, all of which are scientifically tractable, and the hard problem, explaining why any of this physical processing is accompanied by subjective experience at all. Why is there something it is like to be you? Why isn't the brain just an information processing system in the dark, with no inner feel? The hard problem remains unsolved and is considered by many philosophers and scientists to be the deepest question in all of science. Consciousness is not binary. It exists on a continuum, with full waking awareness at one end and unconscious information processing at the other. Preconscious information is material just outside current awareness that can easily be brought to attention, like the feeling of your clothes before this sentence brought it to your notice. Unconscious processing occurs continuously, shaping behavior without ever reaching awareness. Implicit memory, automatic skills, emotional reactions triggered by unnoticed stimuli. The dual process framework formalizes this. System 1 processes are fast, automatic, and unconscious. System 2 processes are slow, deliberate, and conscious. Bernard Barz's global workspace theory proposes that consciousness arises when information processed in specialized, localized brain areas is broadcast into a global workspace, a widespread network connecting frontal, parietal, and temporal areas, where it becomes available to many different cognitive systems simultaneously. This broadcast is what makes information conscious, not the processing itself, but the widespread availability. The theory makes testable predictions about the neural signatures of conscious processing, and neuroimaging studies have consistently found that conscious perception involves more widespread, late-occurring activation than equivalent unconscious processing. Giulio Tononi's integrated information theory, or IIT, proposes that consciousness corresponds to a mathematically quantifiable property called phi, the degree to which a system integrates information in ways that cannot be reduced to its parts. A system with high phi cannot be understood as just a sum of independent components. It generates information beyond what its parts generate separately. IIT makes the provocative claim that consciousness is a fundamental property of certain physical systems, not exclusively a brain property, and that even simple systems may have minimal consciousness. It remains controversial, but is taken seriously by neuroscientists. The default mode network is a set of brain regions, including the medial prefrontal cortex, posterior cingulate cortex, and angular gyrus, that are active when the mind is wandering, thinking about oneself, imagining the future, or considering other minds, but deactivate during focused external tasks. The default mode network appears to be central to self-referential consciousness, the aspect of awareness concerned with one's own identity, continuity, and narrative. It is disrupted in depression, where it becomes hyperactive and dominated by self-critical rumination, and in psychedelic states, where its dissolution correlates with the ego dissolution experience. Meditation practices systematically alter states of consciousness in ways that are now well documented by neuroscience. Expert meditators show increased gamma wave activity, high-frequency oscillations associated with neural integration during meditation. Long-term practitioners show structural changes in the prefrontal cortex and insula, increased attention control, reduced default mode network rumination, and altered amygdala responses to stress. Meditation-induced mental states are not simply relaxation. They represent distinct modes of consciousness with specific neural signatures that differ from both waking rest and sleep. Hypnosis is a state of highly focused attention combined with reduced peripheral awareness and increased responsiveness to suggestion. Neuroimaging during hypnosis shows distinctive changes in default mode network activity and altered connectivity between the prefrontal cortex and posterior brain regions. The divided consciousness theory proposes that hypnosis creates a split between an executive observer and the experiencing self, allowing the observer to watch without the subject being aware. Hypnosis has documented efficacy for pain management and is used in medical and dental procedures, demonstrating that it is not simply role-playing. Consciousness is simultaneously the most familiar thing in the world. You have never experienced anything except from within your own consciousness, and the most mysterious. Every scientific advance in the neuroscience of consciousness makes the hard problem more precise without fully solving it. Understanding the theories and neural correlates of consciousness is preparing you to think about one of the deepest questions that science and philosophy have yet to resolve.